Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. This is the advice stream. I am your host, JeremyInternational. This is the advice stream. Yeah, it's the only stream, I think, where we play old video games and we give advice to you, the audience at home. If you're struggling, if you have questions, if you're not sure what to do, you can go on ahead to JeremyInternational.com and submit an advice question. And then I, as well as whoever guests I happen to have on the show at the time, will, as well as the audience at home in the chat, will go ahead and we'll discuss your conundrum and hopefully provide assistance. Yeah, I nailed that intro. That was perfect. Perfect intro, everybody. Hey, welcome, Amir. Good to see ya. Welcome to the chat. I was not around last week. I was participating in a political fundraiser on the internet, which was weird and fun. And then last night I helped admin another one. What a time to live in where we're doing those things. You know, we don't talk a lot about politics on the advice stream, but I don't think there's a lot of political discussion going on in this country anyways. I think that we should be talking about morals and values and the difference between right and wrong. And we're not talking about that either in this country these days, which is too bad. But we'll do our best. So it's been a little while. We do have plans today to kind of crank through some more Sega Genesis classics. I feel like we're going to be hanging out with the Sega for the next few weeks. I have a new, excuse me, very minty, not super complete, but close to complete copy of Altered Beast we'll be checking out today. Now, I haven't played this game on the Sega probably ever, if I have once or twice, like 30 years ago. I have played a lot of Altered Beast on the arcade. If you're not familiar, we'll get it more into Altered Beast later. But that'll be the show. We are also going to be joined by Oldmin. Eventually, Oldman's running a little late today, which is totally cool. I'm also oftentimes running a little late. So we'll see how the night goes. You know, as always, it's no big deal. We're just hanging out mostly. This is mainly just like a hangout show. We'll play a little bit of games. As always, I also have Jeopardy on standby. We might get a round in on that in the second hour, just because I'm not expecting to get super in to Altered Beast, to be honest. But we'll see. It's just like a very straightforward linear like platform. Not even, it's more of like a beat 'em up, I guess. And those games kind of get a little repetitive and boring to me from time to time. I think at the moment it's just our old pal Amir. I hope everything's going good, Amir. What's new with you, Amir? If you got anything going on in your life, I'm gonna have a little sip of my my bourbon. Just a little bit of inside information for me. The ice maker in our refrigerator is broken, and I don't imagine us getting it fixed ever. So I have not had a nice clinky glass of whiskey in quite a while. This is really the only time while I'm doing this stream that I have a glass of actual booze. You know, we have a very European household, so I'll have like a beer or a glass of wine with dinner most nights, but that's about it. But during the stream, I treat myself to a little bourbon. And drinking bourbon without ice is less fun for me. And so we got ice trays. Who knew that ice trays? I forgot about ice trays. So this is my first sip of really nice glass of bourbon. This Four Roses. I just opened it. I got a lot of bourbon for my birthday back in April, so I'm getting through those bottles very slowly. That's nice. Not my favorite bourbon, to be honest, but it's a good one. For sure, the Four Roses. If you're in the market for a bourbon. You know, my preference is always, of course, is Basil Hayden. That's, I think, the best bourbon you can get for, like, a reasonable amount of money. Oh, do I hear Oldman? Hey, Oldman, hold on. I'm bringing you on. You ready?
I'm ready.
Yeah. How's it going, Oldman?
Well, I just got someone's number, so we'll see about that.
That's cute. I want to hear all about that in just a second. Amir just put into the chat, though. Amir says, crazy busy at work. Yeah, me too, Amir. but it's nice to get home after a long day at work and finish my chores for the day with Jeremy and Oldman in the background. Aww.
Oh,
Being the
that's
soundtrack to
very
somebody's
true.
chores around the house, I think that is a good goal. That's a good place to be. Some of the I really love that. I got some great people keeping me occupied in the background while I do my chores. Amir apparently doesn't work from home, which is confusing to me. I don't remember what it's like to not work from home. I mean, I got to go on site like every once in a while. I have a big on site project tomorrow, but mostly I'm home every day.
How far do you have to go?
Pretty far. I got to go all the way to downtown District of Columbia.
And so, why aren't you visiting me in the meantime? Just kidding.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Do you want to meet me for lunch?
Yeah, I
Usually,
don't have any plans.
what I like to do is I like to get in and out quick. I like to go
Yeah.
do all the work. I don't even sometimes have lunch. I get everything I need to do as quickly as I can, and then I turn around and leave because I usually got to pick my kid up from school. But I do have a little bit more flexibility with time tomorrow. We should talk about it.
That's funny because I am fortunate enough to only have to go in one day a week to the office. But when I do go into the office, I still take a half day because I have a puppy at home
Yeah.
who might destroy things if I last too much longer, or himself even.
I on paper my job's 100% work from home, and hypothetically I could do my job 100% remotely. But occasionally something comes up that's just easier and faster for everybody if I just go in to do it.
That makes sense.
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing tomorrow.
There is some physicality to your job.
Yeah, like troubleshooting. I could hypothetically troubleshoot the Wi-Fi network in this office on a remote computer, but that seems like a lot of work because for me to determine what happens to make the network go down is going to end up making it so I lose that remote connection to that computer. So I could fix it that way, and I think there are a lot of people that do the kind of work that I do that could, but that seems like a hassle. And I can get on the subway and catch up on some podcasts or listen to some music. Speaking of music, man, I'm in a weird place musically lately. I'm listening to these days is Prism by Katy Perry, and then all of Rob Zombie's Everything. That's it. I'm just going back and forth between those two.
That is a very
It's
weird
Rob
place
Zombie
to be.
or it's Katy Perry. I know. I'm in a weird place. You on any kind of weird music kicks, Oldman, and then also anybody in the chat?
Well, I've been really into this artist named Dadi Freyr from Iceland for the
Ooh.
past year or so. And he was a contestant in Eurovision. But he was a contestant during the pandemic and it got canceled before anybody could win.
Yeah.
He would have won.
You should send me a link, or if you could put a link in the chat on Twitch, that'd be cool. If you're watching on YouTube, you're not, but if you are,
Jeremy, I think you would especially like him because his music videos are all very comedic in nature. Like they're all supposed to be Tim and Eric style bizarreness, and that's one reason I like him.
That sounds cool. I like that idea. Thanks for posting that in the chat. I will check it out. Yeah, we got nobody. We got nobody on YouTube as always. Cool. Well, what I was talking about, Oldman, I'll make sure I check that out. What I was talking about before is we're kind of rocking through the Sega Genesis these days, and I think we're going to stick with that. I have determined, by the way, that pinball game we tried to play last time, which I still have sitting here, Dragon's Revenge, does not work. So I need to, the retro video game store I bought it from seems really legit. I need to reach out to them, although I've had it for a little while, to see if they will return it or exchange it for me, because it is not working. Cannot get it to work. But we also talked about last time how there's some financial things going on with me these days, so I'm way scaling back on the games I'm buying. But I do have two games I bought in the month of July. We can do a little overview of that. One is the new Endless Ocean for the Switch. I don't know. Have you ever played any of the Endless Ocean games?
No,
I
but
heard
I
it's
love the
terrible.
ocean. So
Then you'll love Endless Ocean. Um, the first two, I think there were two Endless Ocean games on the Wii, and it's just like a diving, it's like a super chill scuba diving simulator, but you don't have to worry about running
mhm,
out of air. None of the animals can hurt you.
that's good.
You just swim in the ocean and you look for animals, and when you see one, you get a little check mark in your book saying you saw it, and that is it. That's the whole game.
I mean, other than the bends, losing air and encountering angry animals are the only two things that really scare me away from diving. So that sounds good.
It takes all the scary things out of diving. You can't drown. You can't get decompression sickness, and none of the dangerous animals will hurt you. I've only actually played the original one for the Wii, which was many years ago, but it was at a time when I was pretty sick a lot. I think I was having some big health problems, and it's just so
Mhm.
chill to just like float. And you're like, oh, there's a little whale. Oh, there's a little jellyfish. Oh, there's an octopus, and you swim around for a little bit, and it's just as chill as it can be. However, you mentioned the scary things about the ocean, which is running out of air slash drowning, decompression sickness, dangerous animals. You forgot one of the other scary things, which is way down deep in the ocean. There's just stuff I don't even want to look at. Like that's where the weird stuff lives. And you can
No, that'll
dive.
drive you insane.
Yeah, it's like eldritch abominations.
Hmm.
And that is one of the things that I remember creeping me out big time about the game is diving down real deep, and then you see all the weird, scary stuff. And
Hmm.
I don't like, that's great. I'm sure I'm glad that they're there. It's important to have a big, diverse ecosystem on this island Earth. But I don't want to know. I don't want to look at them. I'm happy that they're there. Good for them. I hope that they have a safe and what's the word I'm looking for? Equitable time down there in the Marianas Trench or whatever. But they keep it. They can keep it for themselves.
You sound like you're describing your attitude towards workers in the global south right now.
Yeah, right. Whatever they created it for themselves. Is all I'm saying. It's not no one colonized the Marianas Trench,
Not
and
yet.
took away their not yet and took away their economic opportunities. Cool. All right. Well, should we start with the question? I have a bunch of questions. I've
Sure.
been saving them up. Let's see. Okay. Here's one. It's not too long. 2 years ago, during a rough time in my life, I consulted a psychic. She told me many things, but one of them was that my son was gay and hiding it from me. I was surprised, but found it wasn't that shocking of a revelation, and I kept quiet about it. Now, not all that long afterward, I found some messages that confirmed what the psychic had said. What does that mean? Found some messages? However, at all this time, Kyle, now 17, has never come out to me or otherwise said or done anything to indicate he's comfortable with me knowing his sexual orientation. I don't understand why. I've always maintained open and honest communication with him, and I've always been supportive of unfairly persecuted minorities, as opposed to the fairly persecuted minorities, I guess. I'm hurt that he feels a need to hide this from me, but I also realize that his feelings take priority here. Do you? And clearly I haven't done enough to make him feel comfortable enough in our relationship to be able to predict my reaction for him to open up to me. I guess what I'm asking is how can I make him more comfortable so that he will admit that he's gay? It's hard to pretend that I don't know. Um, yeah, there's a lot in this question. It's deeply packed. Let's start by saying that psychics are fake. and they're all con artists. And if a psychic tells you something that turns out to be correct, it's only because they guessed, and a broken clock is right twice a day. And it's important to start with that. Psychics are not real. And
Can we do this one by one, my friend?
You want to break?
I don't. I agree with you that psychics are fake. I completely agree with you with that. But if we're going to go one by one, I do read tarot now, and I find it useful as like a random assortment of things that can be used to interpret your life.
Yeah, I feel like, tarot, I agree with that. And I guess psychics and tarot cards and the zodiac astrology, isn't that what astrology is? Are kind of like, this is an analogy I just came up with off the top of my head, are kind of like giving like Chat GPT a prompt. Like you're just giving like a suggestion that gets people thinking in a specific way. I think that tarot specifically is good for that. I've had some really productive tarot card readings in my life as well. That I don't have anything against the tarot as long as the person reading it isn't claiming to be able to accurately predict details of your future. But it's really just
and I don't believe that.
It's a series of prompts to get you to feel and think about specific things in your life. And if you do that enough, and that's really like a good psychic is someone that can read your face and your clothes and determine your social status and your spiritual or religious or political beliefs just from looking at you and having a brief conversation. But I guess the difference for me between like a psychic and a person reading tarot cards is psychics actually claim to be predicting your future. And I think
I completely agree with that.
Lots of tarot people that are reading the tarot for you are doing exactly what I was saying before, that they're just giving you prompts to think about your life under a specific lens at a specific time. And that's why I think tarot's not reading your future. It's not predicting anything. And a smart and talented tarot reader isn't going to claim that they are. They're just giving you prompts. But a psychic, on the other hand, oftentimes is trying to get you to think that they can somehow see into your life and into your future. And that is gross and cruel and scammy in a way that I think is unacceptable.
I completely agree with everything you just said. Mostly for myself, I've done the tarot rather than reading for other people. Mostly I've done it just for me.
And you and I have done that a few times too. And I thought it was fun, and it got me thinking about aspects of my life in ways that I hadn't been thinking about before. Like, I mean, I think that's the fun and cool thing about tarot personally.
Yeah, and it is not going to accurately predict your future. But if you get a message from it that impacts your behavior, and you don't even necessarily have to believe that it's something that's divinatory, you just have something presented to you that might be a possibility, and it might, depending on your choice, predict your behavior later if you choose to do that. And I think that's fine. I think a bit of randomness to make you start thinking is a good thing. But let's get back to the question, because that's not what's going on here.
I'll just say one thing. I am a big advocate. If you have a good therapist, I'm a good advocate for therapists. But sometimes in therapy, your therapist is like, well, what do you want to work on today? And you're like, I don't know what I want to work on today. You know what would be really cool is at that point if they take out a tarot deck and they're like, well, this card means change, but like not necessarily a way that you support. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, that's something I can talk about. I'm going through this change in a way that I don't like right now.
Exactly. That's how it works. That's how it works.
Those together, I would love that.
Like
we'll really good, like a board certified therapist that's got a tarot deck on hand just in case you don't know what you want to talk about that day. Amir says, can tarot guess orientation though? No, it cannot. So yeah, let's pick this apart. So the one thing is they went to a psychic and the psychic told them their son was gay and they're hiding it from them. And then they go on to say that they were surprised, but it wasn't shocking. And I don't understand what that means. I really need to know what found some messages that confirm what the psychic said means. Were you scoping on your son's
Yeah,
text messages? What did the text
yeah.
message say? Is he talking about wanting to have intercourse with a person of the same gender, or is he talking about wanting to go see the Music Man or something? Because those are two different things.
You're so old.
Does the
The Music Man really?
Music Man slaps, dude? I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm saying, well, anyway.
But yes, that is also correct. I am old. I am so old, in fact. I'm so old that in a little bit I can talk to you about remembering playing Altered Beast in a video game arcade. The basic, anyways. Oh boy. Whew, that all the wasabi was on that one almond. Um, this show is a fucking mess, man, but I'm having fun.
That's fine. No, I am too.
So, blah, 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 blah. I think the bottom line here is this person really seems like they're trying to make this about themselves. Kids don't usually go into great detail about their sexual lives to their parents. I think that's pretty standard, especially at 17. So, why does this matter? Why do you need your kid to come out to you? Maybe the reason your kid hasn't come out to you is because they know you and your whole affiliation you spend half of this letter writing about, that they know that you don't care, that being a ally to LGBT folks means that sometimes it doesn't matter to you, especially in places where there's no concern of oppression or discrimination. So maybe your kid hasn't felt like they needed to tell you because they know that you don't care, that you'd be supportive of them. Don't make it about you. It's really hard. I can tell you this as I am a parent of a 4-year-old. It is really hard sometimes to let them have their own little lives. I'm sure it gets harder as they get older. But like my kid sometimes will be like, I had this interaction with this other kid at school. And I'm like, oh, that we can talk about it if you want to. It doesn't make you feel great or whatever. But I'm not getting involved. You got to sort out your own social problems. Your interpersonal, like even F4, your interpersonal relationships with the other kids, that's on you. You can talk to me about it. I can help you come up with the solution if you want to, but I'm not getting involved beyond that. I think that's really important to do as a parent. Kids got to figure out their own stuff as much as you can.
Yeah, and how are they supposed to figure out their own stuff if you don't do that? If you are the type of parent that tries to resolve every single thing for your kid, you're not giving them any agency and they won't have the skills necessary
absolutely.
to be an adult.
I went to this because I'm the kind of person that goes to like lectures and talks to learn how to do everything. So I went to this this lecture they had at my kid's school about like how to raise like resilient kids. And that was the one thing they said over and over again is you got to let them figure it out. If they want to talk, listen. If they need a springboard to talk through coming up with the solution, be that springboard. But don't get involved beyond that. You got to let them figure it out. Even when they're 4, as long as there's nothing dangerous or harmful or scary happening. If it's just this kid, I wanted to do this and this kid didn't want to do it and I'm upset about it, you got to let them figure it out.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm not convinced your kid is gay, letter writer from this article. I don't buy the psychic. You haven't shared enough of what other evidence you've uncovered to determine whether or not they're gay. So maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Continue to have a relationship. Continue to foster a sense of openness and honesty in your house. And if they are and they want to tell you, cool. If they are and they don't want to tell you, that's also their business. That's cool. If they aren't, then they're, people don't usually come out as being straight, although I have several times. But that's neither here nor there. And people don't usually need to do that. So don't sweat so much about your kid's sexual orientation. Your kid's sexuality, they're 17. They're just about being an adult. Your kid's sexuality, as long as they're being safe and responsible and honest and they understand what consent means, is not your business. You've at
Hmm.
17, you've taught that kid as much about sex and sexuality as you're gonna. Whatever you haven't communicated to them at that point, it's too late. You just gotta hope for the best.
To me, this sounds like a letter writer who really, really wanted that moment and still wants that moment and is
Yeah.
impatient for that moment.
I
The
agree with
coming
that.
out of their kid. Let me explain because I also read this article as usual at this point before you even read it to me on this show. Uh, but my sense from the article was that she's right that this kid is gay. But it was a good point that you just made about like she saw some messages and that's her evidence. Who knows? Um, but like even if she is right, even if this kid is gay and uh, she has wanted her whole life, it seems like she's wanted her whole life to have the moment where she accepts him.
Yeah. Is
And
really
maybe
about her.
that's what he fears because he knows that's what she wants.
Yeah.
He's 17 years old. Maybe he doesn't want that because he knows she wants it. Who knows? 17-year-olds are unpredictable. But either way, she's in the wrong because he needs to present it to her in the time, moment, and manner that he wants to.
Yeah.
That's what that's about. It's
Yeah.
not about her.
Um, yeah, that's a really good point. Maybe he hasn't said it because he's sensed that she would make it about her. Because she wants to be able
Yes,
to say, hey, world, I love my gay kid. And he
right.
doesn't want that.
Who
Yeah.
knows? Like
Who knows?
there's not enough detail to know, but we can speculate.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we do all the time, mainly because none of the questions we read come from people in the audience. We're just stealing these from the internet. If it was an audience member, we could obviously they could submit the question anonymously and we'd read it anonymously. By the way, you can do that at JeremyInternational.com right there. But and then we could ask you questions, and then you could reply more messages to the contact form there, and we could have kind of a slightly delayed conversation. But anyways, I thought that was an interesting one just because psychics aren't real. Tarot is helpful, is a good prompt for your internal artificial intelligence, which I guess is really would be called natural intelligence. But anyways, do you want to check out Altered Beast? You ever seen Altered Beast, Oldmin?
Altered beast.
Altered
Altered.
Beast. Here,
Okay.
can you see? Altered Beast.
Well, of course I want to check it out.
So let me tell you a little bit about Altered Beast because this game's kind of historically a thing in the video game world. So Altered Beast is, I believe it is in fact a Sega game. Yes, it is. That was an arcade game initially, and I remember this being a really cool arcade game. I remember playing this a lot in the putt-putt across the street from my parents' house. I don't think I ever told you that. My parents, I grew up across the street like a 10-minute walk from a putt-putt. And they had a
Jeremy, that explains a lot,
yeah,
honestly.
doesn't it? It explains an awful lot. So I spent a lot of time, like I had easy access to an arcade often as a young person. That arcade is long gone. The putt-putt itself is long gone. Man, it really does. They had like big dinosaurs all over like in the miniature golf was all dinosaur themed, and like this was so close to my parents' house. Um, anyways, it was like probably less than 10 minutes on a bike to get there when I was a kid. So I remember playing Altered Beast in the arcade a lot. We never had a Sega Genesis. But because it's a Sega game, when the Genesis came out, it was an exclusive to the Genesis. But before that, it came out for everything. And to varying levels of success. By the time the Sega Genesis came out, it's not arcade accurate, but it's close enough. But this was the original pack-in game. This was going to be the game for the Genesis before Sonic. Before anyone thought of Sonic the Hedgehog, this
We
is what
talked about this last time. You
yeah,
gave a preview.
yeah. So this was a lot of hopes and dreams on this game from Sega, and then of course Sonic came out, and I think we probably talked about this last time too. Like if you if you haven't played Like, go play the original Sonic the Hedgehog and then play some other game that came out in the same year, and you'll see how big of a deal Sonic was, because there was nothing like that. We were a Nintendo only house, so I never had regular access to any of that, but I knew a few people and a few other kids that did. So let's check out Altered Beast. I gotta switch this over like this. Let me know if you can hear that audio. You'll see how this game, maybe you won't see. This game graphically for 1988 is pretty impressive, but gameplay wise, especially if you're comparing this to Sonic the Hedgehog, it's slow, it's boring, it's not a lot. But someone at Sega thought this was going to be it. Well, interestingly, there is a version of this for the Master System, which was the 8-bit, was the Sega competitor to the original Nintendo. And there was a version of this available for the Famicom, which was the original Nintendo in Japan. Never came to the United States. I have all of those, and maybe someday it's going to take a little bit more of a technological setup than I have. Might be cool to do a comparison to see how different this game looks, because it looks super different on a Famicom, on a Master System, and then here on a Sega Genesis. It's an interesting little tidbit of video game history for anyone that cares about that. I don't know if anybody does besides me. But we'll play this for a little bit. I doubt we're going to play it for long. I got Jeopardy on standby just in case. But you can see this is just a pretty straightforward beat 'em up. At some point, you turn into a monster of some sort.
I've had enough Jeopardy. As much as I love Jeopardy, I think we should alter our...
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, we can have some Jeopardy, but we've been doing a little too much Jeopardy in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I don't have any other Sega games handy, but we could take a little break and I can run down to the basement and grab one too if we wanted to.
No, I'm always up for more Jeopardy. But what I'm saying is, let's have some more beat 'em ups like this. This looks good. This looks good. He's not a hedgehog who is blue and is able to turn into a sphere. But that's okay. He doesn't have to be.
Man, is this the guy from Prometheus? How do I get to him? He looked
You
just
mean
like
Alien
him, right?
Prometheus? Alien Prometheus?
Are you excited as I am for the new Alien movie Romulus?
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I totally
me too.
am.
I was talking to some folks the other day. The original Alien movie is one of those things that's like people make a big deal about, and it deserves it. That movie is as amazing.
Absolutely.
It's as revolutionary as everyone pretends that it is. I've seen it fairly recently, and there's a scene in the movie where, everyone else on the spaceship except for Sigourney Weaver's character goes down to the planet, and the guy gets the thing stuck on his face. And they try to bring the guy with the thing back on his face back on the ship. And Sigourney Weaver's like, you can't bring him in. He could be contaminated. If he's infected with something, we could all die. And the male captain of the ship overrides her and unlocks the airlock and lets everyone in, and they all fucking die. And it's so crazy to me that there's this moment in the movie where she's like, you know what's going to happen, right? And they're like, no. And then it totally happens exactly. How do I get into you, buddy? Maybe I don't.
That's horror movies from that era for you.
Yeah.
The woman says a very reasonable thing near the beginning of the movie saying, let's not do this. But there wouldn't be a movie if her advice were followed.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. This is why it's called Altered Beast. I'm altered. Now I'm a werewolf.
Oh, shit. And you're still ripped as shit.
And I'm also like way faster. I would like this game more if I was always this fast. Because the game feels very slow.
Maybe we should get a Game Shark.
Yeah, I know. Oh, that'd be fun. You should do that. Man, this is way more fun when you transform. But this is more or less, at least to my memory, what this looked like in an arcade. You'll probably Google it and see that I'm probably wrong.
Well, I guess it would depend on how long you spent in this werewolf state.
Yeah. So that's Altered Beast for you. I could play. Let's do one more round because I didn't do so good at that. Then we'll do some more questions, and then we'll figure out something else to play. I do have on the Sega Genesis, I do have a Buck Rogers like real-time strategy game that also I've never played but seems really cool. If you like Buck Rogers. I like Buck Rogers personally. I prefer Flash
Buck
Gordon.
Rogers.
They're pretty much the same though.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon's better only because of the Oscar de la Renta's Flash Gordon movie from the 70s with Queen doing the soundtrack. You ever see that movie?
No, of course not.
It's not good, but man, it looks good and it sounds good. There's nothing else good about it. I guess that's really all you could hope for in a movie.
NPR did a very interesting story this week on 1984 when, I may be getting the year wrong, but the same year that Back to the Future and a bunch of other sci-fi big properties were released.
Interesting.
And how that happened.
Back to the Future takes place in 1985, but maybe it came out in 84. I don't know the answer to that. I remember though when Back to the Future came out on VHS and it was at our local video rental store. Which, this is how old I am, which was called Video Adventures. And my sister, I don't know why, I should ask her why, tried to talk my parents out of letting my brother and I watch it. My sister's adorable. A bit older than us.
That's really cute though.
Yeah, and she said that like it was, because she had seen it, I think, in the movies. And she said it was like scary or like there was like car chases in it that were too intense for us or something.
Oh.
I don't remember why, but my parents let us watch anything. So there's no way that they were going to say, I mean, I watched RoboCop when that came to the video store too, which is, I think RoboCop's too intense for me to watch today. I don't know. I don't remember why, but she didn't want us to watch. She also didn't.
She wanted to protect her little brothers.
She wanted to protect she didn't want us to watch The Karate Kid either. Maybe she wanted to protect us, but like that was the type of siblings we were. We all get along great now as adults. Don't get me wrong, but I also feel like she was like, I don't want. Ooh, what's this guy? Is he just like
what in the
throwing
world?
heads at
This
me?
is the boss. This is the first level boss battle here.
Yeah, and I died.
No!
Oh wait, I got one more. I think this is a safe place for me to stand. I didn't realize.
No! Mostly though. Yeah.
I didn't realize that the wolf guy shoots his punches. I'm not taking any damage at all.
What is he even throwing?
His heads. Yeah, we did it.
Nice.
Take that, you
Hell
big
yeah.
pile of so-and-so.
This is the most rapid progress I think you have ever made in a game on the stream.
No,
apart from maybe Dracula. Different story. But
and I beat Space Ace all the way through in one episode,
yes, you did.
if you recall.
Yes, you did.
That was, to me, the best episode of the show of all time. Space Ace. Ooh. I'm just a normal guy now. I don't like this guy. Oh.
Oh no.
Oh boy.
Can you just wear him?
Yeah, that'd be
you can't
cool
just
if
wear
I'm just
him.
like, this is my new look. That's not fair. I don't know what. Okay, let's do
incremental progress.
Yeah, incremental progress. Let's do another question. Let's go back to this view. And can I lower this volume? Can you say something to make sure I still got you? No, I do not.
Hello.
Wait, one more time.
Hello.
Okay, that works. So that's Altered Beast 1988. You can see why as soon as Sonic the Hedgehog came around, everyone was like, yeah, we're going to do that instead of this game, because it's a little brutal. It could be more fun. For sure. Let's do another question though. because I have a lot. Did you bring any Oldman? It's no big deal if you didn't.
I need to actually find my phone, and I'm not going to bother looking for it right now.
I
So,
actually have.
I do
plenty
have
because
questions.
I've been saving up. I'd imagine there's probably some overload too. Okay, let's do this one next. I don't remember a lot of these because I added them into my note quite a while ago. But we'll do this one next and see how it goes. I went part-time at my job when my first child was born. I intended to work part-time while she and my, at that point, hypothetical second-born were young and return to full-time employment once the younger one started kindergarten. Long story short, the second baby came with a twin, and I ended up quitting to stay home with my 3 children. I was ambivalent about it at first, but I'm glad I've had this time with them. My twins will be starting kindergarten in September. Good for you. And I've decided not to try to return to my previous career. The job market is notoriously oversaturated in my area. The hours aren't great for families, and I just don't have the patience anymore for the kind of customer-facing work that I used to do. I'm planning to look for part-time employment of some kind in the fall. The thing is, I've always been the kind of person who has a pretty clear plan for the future. Even though that plan often had to be revised along the way, this is the first time in my life where the next step feels completely unclear to me. At this point, the last time I had a 5-year plan was 5 years ago. I'm trying to live in the moment, but the question of what's next is keeping me up at night. Is it normal to feel this way? What do I do about it? So to paraphrase, the person ended up having more kids than they anticipated, but the youngest of their kids is about to go away to kindergarten, so they'll be gone during the day every day. So if you're a stay-at-home parent, that's kind of the end of your full-time responsibilities as a parent, at least, is when they go to school. Although, of course, remember, summer, that isn't the case. I didn't remember that when I had a kid, is that they're not in school when they go to school. Cool. You have time during the day to focus on work or whatever, but not in the summer. Anyways, so she's not going to go back to her previous career. She has this kind of blank page in her future about her next act in her life that's stressing her out. It seems like she said the last time I had a 5-year plan was 5 years ago. So she seems like the kind of person that often has a 5-year plan. I personally have never had a 5-year plan once. I don't know if you've ever done that, Oldman.
Governments should do it, but no, not me.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this seems really exciting because it seems like there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of time to be creative. There's a lot of time to reinvent yourself. One of the things that I would ask this person, if I could, is what is their financial responsibility? Like, do they need to be making a specific amount of money? Because if the answer to that is also no, like their co-parent or whatever makes enough to support the house, then that opens up even more opportunity. Like if I was in this situation, I also would have trouble sleeping because of the level of excitement I would have with the freedom you have to find what your next move. If this is something you should be excited about. I'm not going to say the world's your oyster because there's a lot of things you can't do. You can only work part-time. You still got kids. But what are you going to do? I don't know. To me, I'm excited for this person. Oh, we have a comment from a first-time chatter, multi-ball. Hey, multi-ball. Is that like a Whopper, like Whopper multi-balls? Because I like a lot of candy.
What does that have to do with the Whopper? Oh, Whoppers as
like
not
the
the
Whopper,
Burger King
and
thing.
what they're called that you get at the movies. They're like malted milk balls covered
Yeah,
in
yeah,
chocolate. They are gross.
I know what you're talking about.
I hate those things. But some people like them. So welcome to the stream, multi-ball. While I wasn't paying attention while we've been talking. We've got a few people that have joined the chat. So let's do a little call sign here. This is the Advice Stream. I'm your host, Jeremy International. I am joined tonight, as I often am, by Oldmin. The advice stream is the stream where we play old video games. We've been playing Altered Beast on the Sega Genesis. It's not great, but we'll probably play that a little bit more momentarily. And it's a pinball pun, multi-ball says. Oh, like multi-ball as opposed to
Multi-ball. I like that.
multi. Yeah, I like that. Okay, now you got me, multi-ball. I'm in there. I'm in with you. But if you'd like to seek advice from me, your friend Jeremy International, my guest for the night, Oldmin, or also the kind and nice folks in the chat, you can head on over to JeremyInternational.com, and there is a contact form at the bottom where you can submit a question, which we will read anonymously to the out loud in the live stream. This is where it all falls apart, and we'll discuss as a group. You can also just throw it right into the chat if you want to, if you don't mind being not anonymous. We are live on Twitch. We are live on YouTube. And I am glad that people are joining the show and hanging out. I hope that you stick around. We'll see a little bit more Altered Beast in a minute. But it is not a fun hang by my assessment. Anyways, going back to our current question is about a person who went part-time at their job when they had their first child. They continued to work part-time while they had a second child. It doesn't say how many years that was apart, but the second child turned out to be twins. So with 3 kids, they quit. They became a full-time stay-at-home parent. Now that the youngest kid, so the twins are in kindergarten, they're free during the day. They want to go back to work. They want to get a part-time job. They aren't going to go back into their previous career path because it's not a good fit for them, which I respect that level of self-awareness. And they're stressed about what they're going to do. My assessment, and I'd love to hear your input here in a minute, Oldman, is this is something to be excited about. There is so much opportunity for you. You can get a job in a tattoo shop. You can get a job in a record store. You can get a job in an old video game store. Those are the things I would think about if I had this opportunity. Find something you're passionate about, and you can pursue that as a part-time job. That sounds amazing. Write a book. What are your thoughts, Oldman?
I think that it is a wonderful thing when a parent takes on the identity of a parent. And also at the same time, in order to maintain that identity as a good parent, you need to have these kind of side projects and social relations, or at least to try to maintain them.
Yeah.
That would be my thought.
One of the things I was most concerned about when I first became a parent, once again, my kid's 4, is that I wanted to make sure that I was me. Like, I didn't want dad to be the most interesting thing about me. And I think that I've been able to maintain that. I know lots of people that have had kids and that's what they become. And I didn't want that for myself. Being a parent is the most important thing most people ever do. It's the most important thing I'm ever going to do, but I don't want it to be like the linchpin to my representation to the world. And I think that I've mostly managed that fine. But I think, like it's rare as adults. It's rare in life that we get to kind of so clearly like open a book to a new chapter. Like normally, our lives change in increments. Sometimes they're minuscule increments where you don't notice changes happening until it's happened. You have a kid, that's a big change right away for sure. But outside of that, you get some horrible disease. That's a big change right away. I've had a kid, I've had cancer. I can relate to that. But like it's outside of a kid, it's rare that you get to have create this new chapter of your life in a positive way. And this person has the opportunity to do that. I'm so excited for them. They can do a part-time job. You can do anything you want. You like computers, get a job in the Apple store. You like art. If you don't need to make money, get a job volunteer at an art gallery, or get a job as a docent at an art gallery. Some places pay for that. Not many and not a lot. So, all of that depends on how much money you need to be contributing with this part-time job. But since you've gone so long without working at all, I'd imagine that financial obligation is not very much, if anything. Yeah.
Isn't it so hard sometimes to recognize when the world is your oyster
Yeah.
and that there are opportunities set in front of you? It's so easy to like fall into the despair of well, this next thing is
Yeah.
my challenge,
Um,
or the next thing after is my challenge, and you don't stop and recognize how fortunate that you can be at certain moments. And I'm not saying that this person has no challenges. That would be ridiculous. Everyone has challenges
yeah.
their entire
And
lives.
they still, after 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they got 3 kids again. So, they can't do anything. They can't do everything, but they can do a lot. And I'm reading in between the lines to say that money may not be a big factor in that decision.
Could be.
And I think there's a certain type of person that's very used to having a long-term plan and following that plan. Or if things go wrong and the plan kind of goes off track,
Right.
that's part of the plan, is like you're flowing with that, but you have an agenda and you're always following through it. I've never been able to do that just because I've never gone a long period of time without having some kind of health crisis. But I understand that lots of people work in that way, and that might be difficult for this person. Then I'm assuming, because it seems like they've always been that person that has a long term plan, that they need to figure this out, and they have so much opportunity in front of them
Mm-hmm.
to learn, to explore. If all I needed, if my kid was in school during the day 5 days a week and I didn't have to make money, I would, I don't know, I'd take a couple college classes about something that I think is interesting. Like, I wouldn't do any of the assignments. Like, what is it called when you like matriculate or whatever? You go to the class but you don't actually have to get a grade.
Well, Jugsy is saying you should do interpretive dance. So
Yeah, I mean, I would certainly take a lot of dance classes. That's for real. I do a lot of stuff. I'd spend a little bit of time every day writing. I'd pick up an instrument. I don't know if I like. That's the one thing that I don't have a lot of, is time and energy, because I have a full time job and I have a kid. If I didn't have to have the full time job and my kid was at school most of the day, I'd do all kinds of stuff. The world is so full of things to do and interesting things to learn. Take a cooking class. I don't know. There's a million things. So, anyways, I'm jealous of this person, and I think that they should try, if they can, to reorient the way they think about this. Instead of being stressed, is to think of this as an opportunity to learn and to grow and to explore in a way that a lot of people, once you're an adult, at least until you like are old and retired, don't ever get to do. Seems great to me.
mm-hmm. Having an explicit purpose in your life is extremely underrated, especially as far as parents go.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, outside of the parenting. And like another thing, I'm sorry, we're spending way too much time on this question, but I think it's so interesting. Another thing that also people, I think, fall into this trap is they need to be like productive in an economic way, or they're
Mm-hmm.
useless. And like you can create, you can contribute, you can do things that create value that's not necessarily financial value in the world. If you don't need to make money, then find something to do that that builds something else that's more positive than financial resources for the universe. That sounds like a really great way to take this gift you have of free time. Hey, Michael J. Starfox, man, that's screen name I get immediately and I enjoy very much. Welcome to the chat, Michael J. Starfox. Nice to meet you. Michael J. Starfox says, I'm going to say that a million times. Auditing a class, I also couldn't think of the word. That's it. Thank you, auditing. And had to make several increasingly frantic Google searches to find it. My third year of undergrad. So my undergraduate degree is in performing arts, but my second year I spent most of in a hospital bed. I was really, really sick. I didn't finish any of my classes. It was a disaster. I didn't have anything under control. But I went back to college for the semester after that, because I was a little bit healthier at least. but because I didn't finish any of my classes, they didn't let me take any. They only let me take two classes. But then I audited a whole bunch of other theater classes because I wanted to continue my education because it was something I was really passionate, something I'm still really passionate about. So I audited this really intense acting Shakespeare class that I just sat in the back and listened. I was thinking when I'd signed up for it that I was gonna like actually do the assignments and act and learn soliloquies and monologues. And the professor was so terrifying that after the first day, I'm like, I'm just gonna sit back here and listen, and still learned a lot and had a really great time. But I did not contribute at all to that class. It was too much for me.
And yet you still ended up majoring in dance, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, and I don't know. Shakespeare is scary. I think to lots of people that are in that type of world, and I'd much rather memorize choreography than memorize a Shakespearean um, monologue, for sure. Anyways, thanks, Michael J. Fox is auditing. Yeah, you audit a bunch of, even like a community college or whatever. There's a lot of, we get a catalog to our local community college in the mail. And I always flip through, I'm like, oh man, I want to take that class. That sounds really interesting. I want to take a virtual tour on the Danube or whatever. That sounds great. So yeah, if I had more free time and more energy, that is exactly how I would spend it. All right. Anyways, what do you think we should do, Oldman? Should we do more Altered Beast? Should we play Jeopardy, or should we take a brief pause and I can run downstairs and grab some other Genesis game? What do you think?
I am open to both more beat 'em ups and also the ability to find my jewel. So let's let you run downstairs for a minute.
Okay. So we're gonna take excuse me. We're gonna take a brief pause. Don't go anywhere. I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes, and then when we come back, I'll have some other Genesis games. Oh, I forgot to say this. I recently also found it's not a very expensive game. There's a Beavis and Butthead game for the Sega Genesis, which is a point and click adventure, and I'm very excited about that. We might be able to do that next week, but we're going to be sticking with. That's going to be the theme for at least the next month. Is the Sega Genesis? We might throw in some Master System games along the way. So we will take a brief pause. Let's say 5 minutes, and I will be back with some other game options.
And I'm gonna find my jewel.
We are back. Thanks everybody for being patient with me there. I had to run on down to the old video game collection. And I got a couple other things we can choose from. What's going on in the chat? Oldman says that you found your jewel. Congratulations. Hey, Jugsy's here. Did I say hi to Jugsy before? Hi, Jugsy. Jugsy says, help me psychically will this meeting to end.
He's in a work meeting.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, I don't know how that works, Jugsy. You know, what you could always do is say that your internet went out if it's a virtual meeting, and then just turn off your stuff is what I would do. How are they going to find out? They can probably find out. Okay, so I got a couple games to choose from. Let's see if we can decide as a group. First off is I got a couple Lucy's, because most of my games are Lucy's. I got Jurassic Park for the Sega Genesis. Why not?
No, because I know that one is a fucking nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
Freaking nightmare. I apologize.
It's you know, here's a new rule. In the 10 o'clock hour, we can swear all we want. How's that?
That's the rule they should have, really.
Yeah, after 10, we can say fuck as many times as we want. From 9 to 10, we can only say fuck once. But then after that,
I'm not saying it again.
I saw Deadpool and Wolverine the other day, which I enjoyed immensely. And so I also there were 2 X-Men games, also both of which are brutal hangs for the Sega Genesis. But I'm up for struggling through one of those if people want to watch along. And
sure.
Multiball says, oh no, I just remembered my internet went out. Gets up and leaves. Yeah, that's how you do it, Multiball. And then this is probably the most valuable, you know, as far as like the collector's market goes, not that anything's worth really anything, game in my Sega Genesis collection. This is called Wings of War, but it's WOR. Look at that cover. This is like a side-scrolling shooter, but you're a guy with wings. Can you see how rad that is?
I think that's the one we need to do, Jeremy.
Yeah, let's check it out.
It looks like an advanced Dungeons and Dragons 1987 manual.
It does. It does. I was looking at this, like retro D&D games, like video games, are so expensive. There must be a huge collector's market for that. I don't have a lot. There's a Eye of the Beholder game I have for the Game Boy Advance, and then I think there's like a Baldur's Gate like collection I have on the Switch. Also, this is lame. So we've already acknowledged how totally rad this cover is. Look at the actual game cart. It's just a white label.
Oh my goodness.
And this is made by...
They spent all the money on the cover. And
this was developed, and the copyright is held by a company called DreamWorks, but this is not the movie production company DreamWorks, because they didn't exist back then. Sleeverado in the chat just says fuck, which interestingly didn't get filtered out by Twitch's weird autofilter.
Maybe they have already abided by our new rule that we just made up.
maybe Twitch is run by AI and they're like, they just said this is the rule, so it's cool now. Sleeverado.
Yeah, who knows?
Welcome to the show, Sleeverado.
Yes, welcome.
We got people trickling in still. How's YouTube doing? All the action's always on Twitch. YouTube, nobody. But Twitch is bopping, relatively speaking. So we'll keep with that. We always had a couple folks on Facebook, but we don't stream on Facebook anymore. They don't want people on our scale to participate. So let's get our volume back up. Let's switch the screen so we can see. If I haven't said already, I usually say this in every episode. I'm playing, as I just showed you, I always play original physical copies of games for my vintage video game collection on closest to available hardware. For the Sega Genesis, I'm using something that is pretty far from original hardware. I'm using Mega SG by Analog. This is one of the coolest gadgets. We talk about Analog a lot on this show because I'm a massive fan. If anyone from Analog is listening out there, if you want to send me freebies, I'll take your freebies. But Analog makes hardware emulation, so not software emulation. I can physically plug my original copy of a game into this machine and it'll run. There are adapters, so I can also run all of Sega's other systems, including the Master System, and on this as well, but we're just using it for the Genesis at the moment. I couldn't tell you how much I love Analog. I got almost all of the devices they've ever made. And I like this intro. Division of what?
A division of toy soldiers.
Weird. What if like DreamWorks also made like missiles?
I wouldn't be surprised.
There we go. Yeah, this looks on. It's got a similar vibe to Altered Beast, to be honest. Copyright 1991. Okay, so I'm this little guy. Ooh, oh
Turn this
yeah. I
volume up.
love a good shoot 'em up, you know? Especially the one, yeah, this is what I like. You just hold the fire button down. That's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you do it. All right, this is solid. Feels fast-paced. Controls are real tight. Whoa, am I tripping? Am I having an acid flashback? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I died.
Hey!
Man, I just like compared playing this right after playing Altered Beast is like night and day. This just I can't describe it better than that. This feels so much better. It's so much more responsive.
This is literally the opposite of the Dracula game we played.
Yeah. If you didn't see that episode, I'm a really big Dracula fan in every way.
So am I.
And so I got an adapter for another analog machine that I have where I could play Atari Lynx games. The Atari Lynx was Atari's handheld device, which I never had, but I always wanted. And doing research, I didn't know an awful lot about the Lynx, to be honest. And there was a Dracula game that wasn't based on a movie; it was based on the book. And I was like, that's right up my alley. I'm totally buying this game. Spent some time like I do on eBay. This is a super fun thing for me to do. Ooh, extra life. And oh man, this game is rad.
Yo.
I am really into this.
Kill the snail. Kill that snail.
I know. It's kind of like there's a little bit of like H.R. Giger to this.
Yeah.
Oh man, that felt so good too. That wasn't too hard. So we played that game on the stream and it was terrible. It was maybe the worst video game I've ever played in my entire life. I played an awful lot of video games.
I mean, I didn't play it. I watched you play it, but it was literally the first like 15 or 20 pages of the book. And the whole idea of it was that it was on the book.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. And then there's this part where you're Jonathan Harkness and you're climbing outside the castle to escape. And there are all these like
and that's the most exciting part.
Oh boy, it was horrible. Let me tell you, this is already up there with my favorite side-scrolling shooters of all time. This game is perfect.
I like the conceit of a person with wings.
Yeah.
Rather than a ship with lasers.
The only shooter, and I don't play a lot of games like shooters like this, but I play quite a few. And the only game I've ever played that's a shooter like this that feels this exciting and this like just locked into the experience is the original R-Type on the TurboGrafx 16 is also, and that's often considered to be like the best shooter from this era. And this is right up there. I understand why this game is so expensive on the collector's market, because it's kind of perfect. The fact it's so smooth the fact that I can talk like this and play, I'm not doing terrible, I'm not doing great, but I'm not doing terrible either, is a testament to how
Jeremy.
tight this game is.
Yes, it is.
Anyways, what I'm trying to say is this is fun. I'm having a good time. I'm sure that I'll die soon, or we'll get to a stopping point, and then we got
No. Do your best. Let's see what you can do. I'm not going to distract you.
Look at this. Look at
that. Of course,
you
you always do your best.
I always do my best. Oh man,
But it's very easy to distract you.
I don't care. I'm having fun either way. We got to do that boss again. You got to get him from the under parts.
Get his throat, I guess.
Okay. Anyways, whew. Wings of War. I don't know if there's other ways to play this if you don't want to spend a lot of money on the original game and you have a Sega hardware laying around, but if you can find a way, if you like video games, if you can find a way to play this video game, you should. Okay, let's get out of here for a minute because I could play that all night long.
As you should.
Yeah, well, we'll get back to it in a minute. Boy, that's a good game right there, guys.
Calisthenics.
Yeah, I know. Let's do another question, shall we? We lost a lot of people while I was playing that because I think I was having too much fun. Oh, this one's rough. This question's short and it's a bummer, but we can talk about it. We'll find a way to talk about it in a positive way. I recently had a huge fight with my girlfriend of 3 years. Our relationship is a good one. We talk of being married, but have not set a wedding date. Recently, she was on the phone with a college friend, parentheses, male, who suggested the two of them take a vacation together on the opposite side of the country. I was not included in this vacation plan. I am currently attending classes and am not available. She was on the phone. Excuse me. I'm back. She was on the phone with the college friend and in no way was trying to hide the call or the plans from me. At the end of the call, I was furious. I stormed out of her house, and currently our relationship is in question. I suspect this might be her way of getting me to propose sooner. But do you think her making these plans with the male friend is at all fair to me?
What is this question?
Yeah. That's a doozy, right?
That's a million different psychological problems on his part, and possibly, I guess it could be an unfair situation, but no, I mean, like that seems like a lot of insecurities that he's just told us about.
Yeah. I mean, he's saying, I'm upset because they did not invite me to the thing that I couldn't go with. I'm not sure how the fact that this friend is male is super relevant unless you're pathologically jealous and you don't want your girlfriend hanging out with other male people. Seems unfortunate if that's the case. I like how it says our relationship is a good one. Like, no, it's not. No, it's not at all. His reaction
just because you say so.
Sorry?
I said just because you say so doesn't make it true.
Yeah, that is true. A good relationship is not defined by someone saying that it is a good relationship. His reaction alone is unhealthy and unsustainable in a relationship, I would say. But then secondly, the fact that he thinks that she's being manipulative like this either means he doesn't trust her or she's given him reason to think that she behaves in this manipulative fashion from time to time. And both of those things are toxic and also unsustainable. That's it. That's all I got. As you have a bad relationship.
I have a little more.
Okay.
Oftentimes when you read these, like on Reddit, our relationships or our relationships advice.
Yeah.
And sometimes those things do check the box of this seems real. So, as we always do, Jeremy, let's take this as real.
Yes.
And my opinion would be that, well, I'm literally contradicting myself right now, but let's say that this troll was writing a story. Let's say that they were trying to get a certain reaction from the audience about this. Why would they write it like this? Why would they not include all of the normal things that a troll would try to say to get a reaction?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that makes me think that maybe this story is true.
Yeah.
If this is it doesn't actually really necessarily have to come from Reddit, because people write troll posts to advice columns all the time. That is a big intro. My opinion of this guy is that he has no evidence. He has no real reason to feel weird about it, and he should let go of it. And keep his eyes up. Like, what is going on here? It's possible, always, that a woman might have a friend who is cheating with them. That's a possibility. But the evidence that he's presented in this particular advice column question doesn't seem relevant at all. Like, it seems like he's getting up in his own paranoia.
Yeah. He doesn't even say cheating. He just says, "Is it fair?" Her making plans with a male.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I mean, the best case, the best, most generous, most kind interpretation of this question is that he's unfairly jealous of her.
Yes.
He doesn't want her to spend time with male friends. He can't imagine. He thinks that her going on a trip with a friend who happens to be male is somehow disrespectful to him. That is
what does the word disrespectful even mean? Yeah, I agree. Like, the words that he used are, as much as I am so against speculating about people's problems, and what they don't say in the four corners of the letter, this one really does tell you something by the way that he phrases it, which is that he's jealous based on some kind of weirdly concocted ethical situation in his own mind.
Yeah. There's nothing, if that's the best case scenario, the most generous reading of this is that he is pathologically jealous and threatened by his girlfriend having any kind of relationship with another male person. That's the most generous interpretation of this. The worst interpretation is that is still the case. And then also his girlfriend is manipulative, emotionally manipulative, and withholding and trying to make him feel this level of jealousness so that he'll propose to her faster. Like, that's a good way.
That shit is ridiculous. That shoot is ridiculous. I cannot believe that part of the letter where that guy was like, "Oh, is she trying to make me marry her?" This is a guy who has read 4chan way too much.
Yeah. The advice I would give this person is, you're not in a good relationship. You're both pathologic. You at least, letter writer, are unhealthy. And potentially your girlfriend is too, if your read on her is even 10% accurate. You should not be thinking about getting married. You should be working on trying to become a healthier person on your own before you're ready to commit and get enmeshed with another person's life. I'm horrible at interpreting how people's screen names should be read. We have a new first-time
Unique Day VR. Unique Day VR. That's what we're going to call this person for now.
Unique Devar.
Oh, Unique. Oh.
Either way, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the advice stream. We're bopping and a rolling here. We just we're trying to give a advice to a person whose advice question we stole from Reddit about being a very unhealthy a person in an immensely unsustainable and unhealthy relationship that they somehow think is a good one. And if by any chance the person that wrote that question is listening out there, don't get married, please. Definitely don't have babies. If you're not using some kind of regular birth control, please start doing so right away. Get your life a little bit more in order. You need to address this kind of unhealthy, pathological jealousness that you have. And then maybe you can get back on track to pursue a relationship with somebody else, please.
I feel like this person might have a better case if, let's present a hypothetical example.
Okay, let's do
The
it.
person that you are dating says to you, I'm going on a camping trip with my best friend who is the opposite sex that I am attracted to, and we are going to sleep in the same tent, and you have to be okay with that. If you're not, then you are bad. That's a different situation than what this letter writer has presented us with. This letter writer has presented us with, this woman is scheming to marry me.
By deliberately making me jealous by planning a trip with
right, that
college
doesn't make
friend.
sense. It makes no sense. No sense at all.
Let me ask you this though, Oldman. I mean, here's another question though. Let's say you're in a committed relationship, long-term relationship, married, whatever, doesn't matter, with a person who has a friend of the opposite gender, that they hypothetically, that gender is the gender that they prefer for sexual activities, and they are making plans with that person that doesn't include you. Where do you draw the line of plans that would make you uncomfortable?
That's a very difficult line to draw.
Yeah, it is for me too.
And it's very fact specific, relationship specific.
Yeah, let's say
I can't possibly give you like a bright line rule on that, because relationships are not based on bright line rules. Relationships are based on understanding of the other person and real trust.
Yeah. And I would say, I wouldn't be in a long-term relationship with a person that I was concerned was going to cheat on me. Well,
right.
Also though, like cheating, like what does that mean? Like cheating is people that are in exclusive sexual relationships should have a conversation, and I don't think enough people do, should have a conversation about what cheating means for them. Does cheating mean texting someone that in a real emotional way? Does cheating mean having intercourse with someone? Does cheating mean giving someone a kiss on the cheek? Does cheating mean going on a trip and sharing a hotel room and nothing else happens? Maybe there's a possibility that someone accidentally sees somebody else naked. Like if in the absence of a clear conversation about what cheating means, then you kind of go by the standards of culture that's acceptable for cheating. And cheating means that you're having sex, that you're doing sexual activities with another person, or that you're emotionally invested in them in a way. You have a level of emotional intimacy that you wouldn't otherwise have with a friend, which is a harder thing to define, but you know it when you see it. But if you're in a relationship and you want that to be an exclusive relationship, I would strongly advise you to sit down with your partner on a day when no one's had anything to drink, you're well rested, you're fed, all of your basic needs have been met, and you sit down.
No questions in the background about this agreement.
Yeah, that you sit down and you have a real conversation about where are the parameters, because cheating isn't always the same thing. While my marriage, I'm married, my partner and we're following pretty much the standard of the pop culture standard of what cheating is. I've been lots of previous relationships that were totally open in a million ways. So what I would be jealous about and what would make me uncomfortable as far as behavior on her part goes is really different than what might be for somebody else that hasn't had the type of experiences that I've had. It's different, and you need to have that conversation. This person
Yes.
clearly has not had that conversation, and
Oh my
they
gosh, in the worst way possible. For
um,
this person, not you, Jeremy, not you,
yeah.
or not
So,
me.
but cheating doesn't have to be this monolithic. The parameters of your otherwise exclusive relationship, or even the parameters of your open relationship, don't have to follow the parameters of anybody else's relationship in the history of the world. You need to figure that
Mhm.
out with your partner, and you need to find something that works for the two of you, and then commit to following those rules. But so often people don't do that. That they just agree to some abstract concept of what cheating is, and they're not always on the same page as what
They
that
haven't
means.
even necessarily understood what they've agreed upon
Yeah,
because it is just a cultural norm. And
yeah,
those cultural norms have, very vague boundaries. So why not talk to the person that you love about the exact parameters?
yeah.
As long as you present it in a way where you're saying, I am committed to you and I'm going to be yours. And we need to talk about this, not because I want to stray, but because I want to make sure that we're both on the same page.
Yeah, I don't want to do something that feels okay to me that isn't going to be okay to you. And having said all of that,
Exactly.
going on a trip with the person of the opposite gender shouldn't be cheating for anybody. If that's all that it is,
No,
that is
hell
not
no.
acceptable. That is not cheating for anybody.
Yeah, I
And
mean, like, it's circumstance dependent in the sense that, like, if these are some people that your partner was really, really, really good friends with, maybe they dated before, and
yeah,
they say to you, "Oh, we're going to go on a trip together while our relationship is on the rocks." That's a whole different situation. But we got no sense of that from this letter,
no.
not at all.
Or if your partner has an actual proven history of cheating, and they've said you've patched it up, you've worked it out, they've committed to not doing it again, and then they want to do this, like, that would make me uncomfortable if I had that line of, you're not allowed to sleep with other people, and then you're going to go stay in a hotel room with someone far away when I'm not there. But you've that person has shown that they are open to cheating in the past. Then that's a concern to have. But none of that is is described in this letter, and I suspect none of that has actually happened here. So, anyways, but if you want, goodness, I'm sorry, I'm so congested today. If you want a piece of broader relationship advice, sit down with your partner, and however open or closed you want your relationship to be, however exclusive or not exclusive you want to be, make sure that you have that conversation at least once. Although for most people, if you're going to be in a long-term relationship, it's an ongoing conversation about what cheating means. And if if one person is like, I don't care if you sleep with other people, just be safe, use a condom, and when you come home, take a shower first, crying out loud. And the other person's like, I don't want you to have the type of conversation with a person on the phone that where you're going to become emotionally compromised and cry. If you're going to be that honest and vulnerable, you got to do it with me and nobody else. Then those are all things that are acceptable. And one person can say you can sleep with somebody else, and the other person in a relationship can say you're not allowed to become emotionally compromised with somebody else. Then that's what it is. That's your relationship. It doesn't have to be tit for tat, and no pun intended either. So, but you need to have that. Everyone should have that conversation. This is not something that you should ever just assume that you're both on the same page about, because culturally, what counts as cheating can be really different. I know people that think that looking at pornography is cheating. I know people that think that going to a strip club is cheating, and and I know lots of people that think that as long as you tell your partner in advance, you can go have sex with somebody else as long as they know and that you're clear about all of it, and then it's fine.
We have some comments, my friend.
I know, lots of comments. Um, let's catch up on those comments. First off, going back a little bit, Jugsy is asking if anyone else is having problems with the Twitch app. I just have Twitch up on the web browser on my computer. It's working fine for me, Jugsy. I don't know if there's some weird Australian thing that's going on. Unico Dever says amen at this. I'm assuming they're talking about our part about having conversations about what cheating means. They go on to say 99% of monogamous straight culture never bothers to have this conversation until after they've suffered a violated expectation boundary. 100%.
And that's so harmful. Sorry.
It is. That's why everyone should have that. This should be like part of like the we're going to move in together conversation, or the part of our relationships getting serious. You don't have to get married to have this conversation. You don't need to like be so far into your relationship, but like this is an ongoing like I remember I dated a person once. We were I don't know, like 6 or 7 dates in, and then we had like over dinner one night, we had the conversation that she liked me. We were having fun together. She wanted to continue to see me and have fun with me, but she was also going to be not exclusive and she wanted to date other people. 6 or 7 dates in, that seems reasonable to me as the earliest time it makes sense to have that conversation.
6 or 7.
To me,
that's my response.
You think that's too much? Too many or not enough?
Maybe 5 or 6 at max for me. Like if you really like someone, you know that they like you and that you like them.
Right.
3 or 4 dates in.
When is the expectation? I mean, I guess this is where it's
well, there's no expectation. There's no expectation. Period.
Yeah, but if you like however many dates it is, second date, third date, when you go home and you sleep with somebody, are you assuming that they're not going to be sleeping with anybody after that?
Hell no.
Right, me neither.
The time that you assume that your partner is not sleeping with anybody else is when your heads are nuzzled together in bed and you're saying to each other, I really like you. And they say, I really like you too.
Oh, it's so sweet.
That is the time. And maybe even not then. Maybe you even need to make it explicit then. But
I feel like that.
But that's the time.
Yeah, that's fair. Oldman, you and I usually don't agree on a lot of dating involved stuff. Now, keep in mind that you're actually dating. I've been married for 10 years or so, not that long. But
I got a number earlier tonight.
Good job. Going through the chats again, Multiball says, okay, emphasize not having these discussions when any alcohol is involved. Yes. People suddenly want to talk about this stuff when they've had a few drinks and are also in the worst place to discuss it. If you find yourself wanting to have a couple drinks before you talk to your partner about serious things, then that's a big red flag for either your relationship with alcohol or your relationship with that person, for sure. But not just alcohol. Like people also aren't in their right minds when they're hungry or when they're tired. Like it's difficult when you're always tired, or I guess people that are always hungry. But you need to make sure that you're being planful about these types of serious conversations. And people in relationships, there's dozens of these types of conversations. This is the kids conversation. It's the money conversation. It's the politics conversation. You need to know these things about a person that you're emotionally investing in. And it's important to have not just one, but many ongoing conversations during the course of your relationship. And finding the time when you're both sober and you're both well-fed and well-rested and hydrated. You didn't just, I don't know, watch Hereditary and you're all fucked up or whatever. Like, you gotta find those times.
Don't watch a shitty, really scary, horrible, physical torture movie before you have this conversation.
Don't do that. You've just been playing Altered Beast for 3 hours. Don't have a conversation then. Or if you're playing a really amazing rad game like Wings of War, you don't want to talk to someone while they're playing this game because it's so fucking good. Okay. We're on a roll. You want to just jump right into another question, Oldman? Let's do it.
Yes, let's do it.
This one is really poignant to me because I'm assuming many of you, no offense, in the audience were bullied as a kid a lot. So
yep.
This is I think an interesting one for that purpose. My high school reunion was last weekend, and I ran into a former longtime bully. She bullied me for 12 years straight. Apparently, Jane is now the nicest person in the world, and I don't care. When she approached me and hilariously acted like we'd been good friends who just lost touch, I publicly reminded her that she conducted polling that all showed my classmates wanted me to kill myself, and also paid boys to grab my breasts in the cafeteria and laugh. No adult did anything, of course. I also reminded Jane, by the way, I want to apologize for the severity of those two things, but I think it's really important for this. Bullies are horrible. The damage they do to you as a kid sticks with you oftentimes for your entire life. We need to talk about it. We need to hold even kids accountable for this, their parents accountable for it, school administrators accountable for it. Bullying is horrible. It causes long-term damage to people. So if that language I just used and the things I described are tough for you, I'm sorry. I should have given you a little bit more of a warning, but I don't think it's appropriate to pull punches when we talk about this kind of behavior. No adult did anything, of course. I also reminded Jane that she was awful to me for over a decade, especially during a period when she was closer to being an adult than a child. I was very intentionally not mean, and my tone was a matter of fact. I never yelled, but I didn't lower my voice when we were in a group of people. Jane did way more bullying than that. I cannot even begin to describe how much pain and anguish I endured, and how I really was considering suicide for most of that 12-year period, which I told her. Therapy has addressed some of that pain, but it hasn't completely gone away. Jane got upset and cried, and she tried to apologize, but I didn't care. Nothing will undo what she did, and an apology is so disproportionate to the damage she inflicted. I told her this. After the reunion, Jane emailed me another apology, and it came off as really desperate. It seems as though I remind her that she was not really the saint she is today. Do I owe her anything at this point? I'm not sorry about what I said. She deserves to live with some of the pain she caused that I've been carrying. I read this and copied and pasted it into a note a few weeks ago with anticipation of reading it out loud, and I forgot how upsetting it is now that I've read it again.
I want to say, Jeremy, like many of our questions, I also read this one because I've gotten addicted to advice questions since you invited me to be your co-host. But this is also one that stuck with me, so please tell me what you think.
I think that unless she's the type of person that advocates for forcing Christian ideals on the rest of America, she doesn't actually owe anyone an apology and or forgiveness. Forgiveness needs to be earned. And if a person doesn't earn it, then they don't get forgiveness. And saying I'm sorry isn't enough to get forgiveness. Now, I'll also add in, my situation's a little different because I eventually got to the point where I just beat the shit out of my bully and they left me alone after that. That's because I
have not heard this story.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. It was more than one person that I had to do that to. I also ended up beating the shit out of a couple bullies of other people in my family too. So I feel like if I met the person that treated me in an equally horrible way and made me feel similarly horrible things, if I met them as an adult today, then I would feel a little bit more at peace because I did something about it when I was a kid. Now I'm a male person. I was a male person then. I think that there was a little bit more, at least in those days, there was a little bit more cultural support for boys to react violently to these types of situations, which isn't great. But at the same time, I'm sorry to say this is one of the great tragedies of human history, that some people only react to violence. And that certainly ended my bullying. And it ended the bullying of the other people whose bullies I beat the shit out of too. And I got into a surprisingly small amount of trouble for that because it was the 90s and you could beat up kids and they were whatever. Anyways.
Yes. I was beat up on the playground in the 90s.
Yeah.
I had my head beat against the wooden playground with all those splinters because that's what they did in the 90s.
Yeah.
Let me say that my reaction to
before
this
you go,
might be slight.
I
No,
just
please,
wanted to
please.
add one more thing. Forgiveness is earned. Jane does not earn your forgiveness. You do not owe her
No.
forgiveness. The other thing I'll say is you need to be cautious to give her. She treated you that way because she wanted power over you. And whatever part of her is still that kid that was horrible to you, you're still giving that person power. So you need to find a
Yes.
way. You don't owe her anything, but you also don't owe her um, this power over you either. So I hope that you still have a good therapist and you can check in with them and start to find ways to just brush this off. You don't need to reply to that email. I think you in person told her everything you needed to tell her, and that should be the end of the interactions you have with her. Block her, whatever you need to do, so that she doesn't bother you anymore. But you need to give her less power over her life. That's all I was gonna say. Please, Oldman. I don't
Three
know what you got.
words. 3 words. I have 3 words. You are forgiven. And that's not for her. That's not for the bully. That's for the person who was bullied. It ends it.
Yeah.
If that person is seeking forgiveness, give them, and they seem sincere, of course. Give them the forgiveness so you can move on.
No, I disagree with that because they should feel bad.
I think
if they
yeah,
wanted to do something measurable, if they
it's
wanted
not
to
necessary.
do something active to try to earn that forgiveness, and if the letter writer wants to give them a chance, then that's a different thing. But if her saying, if this person's just like, hey, I'm sorry that I was mean to you when we were kids, if that's all that they're willing to do to earn forgiveness, that even an insincere you're forgiven, they don't deserve that.
I completely agree with you that an insincere attempt at forgiveness is wrong, and I also think it's not a necessity. It's not a moral obligation to forgive your bullies. What I'm saying is, as someone who was very heavily bullied when I was a younger person, maybe if someone does reach out to you many years later, and you're the type of person who attends these events where you meet up again, I'm not saying just to make it more socially easy, but maybe it is better to say you are forgiven and then never think about it again.
That I'm not going to disagree with that as a potential tactic here. But I mean, this is kind of a joke, but it's kind of real too. If something that you did makes you feel bad, like guilt, in the same way that like pain, your body being in pain is telling you that something's wrong. You're moving in a way, you push yourself in a way, something's broken and something's not working inside your body. Guilt is the same way. Guilt is a bad feeling, but you feel guilty if you're an otherwise healthy person. You feel guilty because you've done something bad. This lady, this Jane person, should feel guilty. She should feel really bad about this.
She absolutely should.
It is not your job to make her not feel bad about it. Maybe she needs
I'm
to
not
spend
saying
lots of
anyone's
money to
obligation.
go on therapy.
Nobody's obligation is to excuse the bullies from their childhood.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's not about the other people. It's about the bullied person and how they're going to move forward with their lives. I've dealt with this clearly. And, in my mind, I bullied some people too. I'm sure I did without even knowing it and even knowing it. While at the same time I was bullied by others. And I feel like the best way to move forward for me personally is to say, if this situation was ever presented to me, which it has not been, it would be to say, you're done. Thank you. I forgive you. You're blocked now.
I'd rather just block them in silence and let them continue to have to struggle through. Like this person did something to the letter writer that the letter writer struggled with their whole lives and continues to struggle with. So maybe they need to do a little bit of struggling too. They need to deal with the lifelong consequences of their actions. And
I'm
if
not
and,
sure if that helps. I'm not
it
sure.
doesn't help, but I mean, maybe they'll learn. Maybe it does help. Maybe they learn a life lesson and they raise their kids better. Maybe they start some
I would hope
anti-bullying
so.
coalition out of school or something.
I mean, you could always add more detail to it and like write out something that's a lot longer that reviews all of the shit that they've done to you and tell them how bad it was. But at the same time, if somebody reaches out to you, like imagine Jeremy, if one of your bullies reached out to you right now and said something similar that seemed heartfelt, like I really, really regret bullying Jeremy back in the day. I'm so sorry that I did this, and I would like to apologize for it. What would your reaction be?
I think if this was done in a public place, I think my reaction would be pretty similar to what the letter writer did. I would say,
Yeah,
I think that
in
the
a public
world should
place.
know, the people in our community that are standing
Yeah,
around us should know what you did. And then,
but in a public place, it's totally different from a one-to-one
yeah,
conversation.
if they sent me like a message on Facebook or whatever, I think I'd say, hey, I got your message. I appreciate the sentiment of what you're saying. And then I'd block them.
I would look at their political affiliation first, but that's outside the scope of this show.
That's a whole other thing. Let's catch up on the chat a little bit. Unico Dever says, sometimes forgiving others is more of a gift to yourself. I feel that. Yeah, I mean, I think I get what you're saying. And, it is important. I'm also a big advocate I don't like the term like move on. Like the idea of like this thing happened to me that was traumatic for a big part of a very influential time in my life, and I'm going to push past that. I'm going to leave that behind me. Life doesn't work that way. The past is prologue. Everything that happens to you matters, and at least the big things, especially the bad things, don't usually go away. We just learn how to carry them. We learn how to deal with them. We learn how to make it impact our lives in less of a negative way. And if part of your dealing, if part of your processing, if part of your I'm not going to let this happen affect me in such a negative way is forgiving a person, then that's great. That's cool. If that's your journey, if you need to forgive them like to yourself, if you need to forgive them face to face, if that's part of your, healing, whatever healing means, then I respect that. I do. I think the most important thing is that you don't let that kid that was your bully continue to damage you, and you don't let them continue to have power over you. The damage is done, but you don't need to relive it. You need to learn how to carry it and mitigate its negative impacts. And if forgiveness is part of that for you, and forgiveness for lots of people is a very real, really meaningful spiritual process. And I have the utmost respect for that. That is not my, I don't have a spiritual process because I don't have a spiritual life, but I have an immense amount of respect for people that do. So I really, really respect that. I love that idea of trying to get forgiveness. But once again, forgiveness needs to be earned. Even super religious Christian people understand that forgiveness needs to be earned. And
I don't agree.
Okay.
I agree.
Maybe don't know as much about Christianity as I think I do. Either way.
Well, I might be more Christian than you think I am. I'm not actually.
Either way, real forgiveness, I think, needs to be earned, and it's up to you whether you want to even give this person an opportunity to do it. But the most important thing in all of this, whether you forgive them or not, is that you find a way to stop letting this kid from your past hurt you over and over and over again. That you can't stop the hurt that they've done. You can't stop the damage that they've done, but you need to be able to stop it from reoccurring. And that's what therapy can be good for. That's what an amount of forgiveness, if you can muster it. I certainly wouldn't. I think the way that I would manage healing healing this type of hurt and stopping this kind of cycle of pain in myself would be to just cut them loose and focus on me, focus on the things that I've done in my life in the meantime that make me feel strong and make me feel confident and make me feel loved. That would be, I think, a better usage of your time than trying to find a way to forgive this person or even trying to find a way to make this person relive what they did. I think you did a really great job of calling them out in a public way. I hope that they feel bad. They deserve to feel bad about what they did, and you should leave it at that. You don't need to email them. You don't need to reply to that email. You certainly don't need to give them forgiveness if you don't
No,
want to.
you absolutely don't need to give them forgiveness
yeah.
just because they're asking for it.
But I think leaving that email as moving it into your junk box, making sure that future emails from that person get filtered in the same way, and then finding ways to make you feel good about the person that you've become despite this type of trauma in your life is really the better way to spend your time.
Absolutely. Living well is the best revenge.
Yeah. But also, like, revenge is still like you're giving them too much power. Just
Yes, I agree with that.
leave them behind. Work on yourself. Work on reminding yourself of the great things about yourself and the people that love you and the things that you've accomplished as an adult despite everything. I think is the best way to go. Multiball says, I had a hard time explaining this to a friend who wanted to repair a situation with someone who wasn't interested. You don't always get closure and you're not owed anything. That's a really good point. Multiball is about getting closure. So this idea of like closure, like so many people want these negative or traumatic or bad experiences in their lives to be like some kind of story. Like they want there to be like a lesson. Life isn't always a lesson. Not everything is a lesson. Sometimes, we say this on the show all the time, sometimes a thing that doesn't kill you fucks you up forever, and then you're just fucked up. And you just have to deal with that. You have to find a way to mitigate the way that your fucked upness affects you and other people in negative ways. Not everything's a lesson. Not everything's a story. Sometimes the bad things that happen are just bad things that happened, and there's no end, there's no conclusion. You just need to find a way, if not to heal, then to just mitigate the negativity. The best story about this is Lord of the Rings, and I'll tell you why.
It's so true.
To me, Lord of the Rings is a big part of my life. And it has meant a lot of different things to me over different points in my life. But the big theme in my life over the last many years is kind of starting to identify and think of myself as a person with a disability. I have a lot of serious health issues I did as a kid, as a teenager, and then even more recently in the last decade or so. And those are things that the theme of Lord of the Rings to me, what those books are really about, is sometimes something so bad happens that you don't ever get over it. You don't ever heal from it. It's not a thing that made you stronger. It's not a thing that taught you a lesson. It's just something really bad that happened that broke. The world is broken. Your relationship is broken. Your body is broken. And that's just how it is now. And you got to move on because time only moves in one direction. In Lord of the Rings, that happens on a global kind of a spiritual scale with Sauron and the ring and evil that's been brought into the world. It happens in kind of a political, like a national scale with Gondor and them not having a king and the damage that happens to that society because of the failures of people. Happens in a really personal way. To Frodo, he gets stabbed by the Nazgul on Wintertop. He never gets over that wound. It never heals. They say that 1,000,000 times in the book. That wound's never going to heal. He's going to have that wound and the pain from it forever. That's what that story is about.
Symbolic. Yes.
It's so symbolic. That's how life actually is. The things, sometimes the thing that doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and that's great, and then you're stronger. But a lot of the time, that's not what happens. The thing that doesn't kill you just fucks you up forever. And people's bodies break, their psyches break, societies and cultures break in ways that aren't really repairable. You just have to find a way to move ahead. And this person who's writing this letter is exactly in that situation. You don't think about getting over this trauma from your childhood. Don't think about trying to find forgiveness of the person that deliberately caused it to happen when they were essentially an adult. Worry about moving ahead, looking for the strength and the hope that you can find in your life, and letting the people that hurt you just go about their lives. Now, if they're going to hurt somebody else, you got to do something about that. But that doesn't seem to be the case here. Yeah. So that's
Jeremy, what a wonderful piece of wisdom that you have just given us.
Thanks.
I'm not being sarcastic. I think it's wonderful. I also
appreciate
think that it might be a good place to wrap us up.
Yeah, I was just noticing the time myself. All right. Well, thanks for joining. We actually had a higher turnout than we normally do tonight. I hope everyone comes back. Although I will say I won't be available Monday. I'll be out of town next week. So I'll catch everybody. Please don't forget whole crowd of people that followed tonight. That we'll be back the Monday after next. We will be playing.
Jeremy.
Yes.
When are we going to do the you and me in the same frame playing Wii?
I know we gotta do that soon. I don't know. There's so many technical problems to get that sorted out. We'll figure it out.
I know. We will.
But next time, so the week after next, I'm gonna go ahead on the record and say we will be playing Beavis and Butthead for the Sega Genesis, which I've never played. I just bought it. It's a point and click adventure, which sounds great because I love the Beavis and the Butthead. And we will see you next time. This is the Advice Stream. I'm Jeremy International. I was joined tonight by Oldmin. If you'd like to watch previous episodes of the Advice Stream, you can head on over to JeremyInternational.com. There's links there to tip if you'd like to. No pressure. If you don't, no one ever has. But maybe we will someday. And we will see you the week after next in the same place. Good night, everybody.
Good night.